สวัสดีครับ I'm Point from ค้นพบ I've been thinking about how we can or where we can really begin to do the work and the practice so that we begin to learn about and embody these concepts and principles that we always talk about in each and every video, in each and every week, so that it doesn't just remain at the intellectual level of understanding. It does not remain as just a concept, an intellectual concept that we feel or think is nice to believe in, but that it becomes deeper. It is based on your understanding from your own direct experience of it, from your own proof, contemplation, consideration, and practice and embodiment by yourself, and that it becomes wisdom. So all these concepts that we talk about all the time, whether it's understanding the nature of the mind and how your mind works, and how this relates to the nature of suffering, and how does that work? How does this relate to cultivating and developing compassion, kindness, patience, wisdom? What about the present moment? What does it all boil down to? It boils down to, or it comes back to, self-awareness. The ability to understand and see in an objective manner what your mind is doing in each and every moment, or to be as aware of it as much as possible. To understand yourself, to know yourself. Now, then the next question is, well, okay, that's nice. Well, where can I begin? I think a practical way to go about this that is also, not only is it simple, but it's also very practical, is to use the everyday circumstances and situations in life to learn more about yourself. For example, I'm sure that we can all, in most days, if not in every day, we can all find some situation or somebody, some person, which may not be so pleasant, right? Instead of reacting to that immediately, which we tend to do automatically, and that's because we lack the self-awareness there, right? Instead of reacting immediately, just try to pause for a moment and just watch what is going on. Just observe it objectively without the need to make any conclusion yet, without the need for judgments or any biased way of looking at it. Imagine you are a scientist trying to crack the mystery of how your mind works. And a good example is a situation involving somebody else who is being judgmental, who is being mean, unkind, angry, difficult. Seeing somebody else who I'm sure we can at least find one or two people like this, who is busy being judgmental of others, busy criticizing other people, busy blaming other people. In other words, somebody who hasn't really learned to take responsibility for their own life, their own emotions, because they're too busy blaming other people. Right? Do you notice your own tendency to project some judgment onto that situation or person? Right? How dare they be so selfish, so manipulative? That colleague of mine at work, the one that always talks behind other people's back. What a selfish person. Why would the company even hire somebody like this? Why do I have to work with a person like this? Take a moment to pause, right? And instead of being quick to judge the situation, being quick to judge the person, being quick to demonize the person, watch what is going on. Watch what is going on. This is especially powerful in a situation where there's a conflict between somebody else, right? So maybe you're not part of the problem, but you see an argument happen, or maybe you are part of the conflict in some way, shape, or form. Just watch what is going on, and watch how your mind wants to make a quick judgment and label that person in some way, shape, or form. Because again, as I talk about in some of my videos, in many of my videos, judgment is a convenient thing to do, right? It's convenient to judge. It's easy to judge because it provides you with the convenience to feel as if you understand the situation, or to feel that, that person who you call bad, selfish, evil, hateful, angry, annoying, greedy, those people, you're not like them. You're better than they are. You know how I tend to talk about judgment in that way, right? So instead of judging, ask yourself this question. What you see in that person which you don't like, what does it reflect about yourself? That impatient person trying to rush something that you don't like, what does it reflect about you? Perhaps in some area of your life, you tend to easily get frustrated as well, right? Flip the situation on its head and use it as a mirror to really see it in yourself. That person that is busy judging other people and blaming other people, right? Maybe you find a colleague who is blaming another colleague for something that they did at work, or for being selfish in some way, shape, or form, because that person is talking behind the third person's back, right? Ask yourself, in what area of your life do you also tend to be critical of, blame, and point fingers as well? Maybe it's an area that has nothing to do with the conflict in front of you, but the mechanism of it is the same. And that's when you start to really learn about yourself. So for example, if a colleague is blaming the boss for being mean and selfish because they treat the company employees bad, for example, right? Ask yourself, in what area of your life are you also treating somebody not as nicely or as kindly as you could? What area could you work on? It could be something very small, you see. It could be something very small, like maybe you're impatient and you're a bit unkind, or you feel a sense of entitlement when you are a customer of some product or service and you aren't so kind to maybe the waiter or the waitress or the customer service lady. You see that? You see that? Use the situation to flip it on its head and to see how you yourself are also reacting in a similar way in some aspect or domain of your life. Because I guarantee you, unfortunately, we're not nearly as perfect as we would like to imagine ourselves to be. But that's actually a blessing. That's actually a blessing. That's the way I look at it. It's actually a blessing in disguise, because it shows you where you can continue to work on. And it humbles you, right? It humbles you. And there's room for improvement there, right? Now, I borrow this concept from Carl Jung. And again, I borrowed from Jordan Peterson, Dr. Jordan Peterson as well. So Dr. Jordan Peterson, as you may know, is a famous Canadian clinical psychologist. And Jordan Peterson himself is a big fan of Carl Jung's work, and talks about Carl Jung a lot. And I really like how Dr. Jordan Peterson is able to dissect and summarize Jung's teachings in a relatively, digestible and in very practical, easy to understand way. So, if I understand correctly, the main argument is this: is you must be able to see how you yourself behave in monstrous ways. That is how you defeat evil, right? Evil is not out there to be defeated, to be eradicated, to kill. You're not there to kill evil that you see out there, that you blame that person is being so selfish, is being so mean in the way that they treat their own boyfriend or girlfriend or kid or son or daughter. How dare they? How dare he? How dare she? Right? That selfishness, that judgmental attitude, the mean words that come out of that person's mouth. How dare they? Evil in that sense is not defeated by going out there and setting the world in order. No. Evil is defeated by seeing it in yourself and making peace with it. And that's how you tame it in that sense. Right? So you must be able to see how you yourself have the potential to also behave in monstrous ways. Perhaps if you were given a similar circumstance in life, a similar upbringing, a similar socioeconomic status or socioeconomic background, a similar education, a similar family background, a similar cultural background, a similar social background, then maybe you would turn out like that person which you are demonizing or labeling as bad. Not only does this humble you, but it helps to cultivate self-awareness. Because once you begin to really see this and you really appreciate this, you become humbled because you have the understanding that there's a lot of work to be done on you. So the weight starts to now shift inwards, right? The tide turns in. Instead of going out there and blaming everything else, criticizing, demonizing, and judging, and reacting to life, you understand that it's an inner game. An inner game to master yourself. And you understand there's a lot of work to be done. So you become more interested in finding ways to really begin to do that work so that you don't have to become that which you don't like, which you would see as selfish, as unkind, as impatient, as a frustrating character, as a negative attitude, or anything for that matter, right? So you begin to be motivated and pulled to look inwards and do work on yourself. And that will lead to a greater level of self-understanding, a greater level of understanding how your mind works, and you're beginning to cultivate self-awareness. You're beginning to develop self-awareness, and this helps you to navigate life in a much more empowered way, I guarantee you. Right? Now, I must emphasize that this may sound simple and it may sound easy, but don't let that fool you, because I guarantee you it's not as easy as meets the eye, right? And once you really begin to work here, to do the practice here, you start to understand that it's a long road, but you don't become disheartened by the road. You actually become encouraged by it, because you understand that with each small step, each small development, you become better than you were yesterday. And that place affords you many wonderful things. You're less reactive. You have less suffering, generally speaking. You're better able to deal with your mental state. You have better mental health. And you'll find that this translates to many positive areas of your life. You have better relationships. People want to be around you more. You're less judgmental. You're more accepting. You're more caring. You're more understanding. And you are more patient. And these qualities really help you to live a life in this chaotic world. Okay? So again, the key is self-awareness. And use everyday situation. Somebody who you may not like, who you want to judge and label and demonize as bad, selfish, mean, unkind, ask yourself how that reflects in you. Maybe you're no longer mean like that person that you're using as this mirror kind of practice, but maybe you see that in your past you were like that too, and you see that, so you understand where you came from. This helps you to judge that person less, and this opens doors for you and for that person. Okay, this opens doors, and I will leave it to you to figure out or to consider what that means. Okay, thank you very much for watching. I hope this video was valuable for you, and stay tuned. I'll see you next time. สวัสดีครับ